Guys, it is finally here. The real estate market shift has hit. It has hit San Antonio pretty good. We have seen quite a few changes here within the last month or so since those interest rates hit the ceiling and started going way up. Let me tell you what, guys, we absolutely needed this. I could not be happier to see this shift coming, and I will tell you why it's actually a good thing for everybody involved. Now, we're going to dive into everything related to the real estate market right now in San Antonio, especially prices, which of course I know you guys want to hear about. And we're also going to talk about what it means for interest rates and how that affects everything, as well as new construction, and also how it affects you as a buyer if you're coming to San Antonio, if you're relocating to San Antonio, or if you're looking to sell a house in San Antonio. I'll give you all those details as we get into this. Everybody knows that the COVID real estate market was just one of the absolutely most ridiculous things that was ever happened, especially to real estate in the entire country. I mean, prices were going up 25 to 30% over those last couple of years, and in a market where normally it should be, a steady 5 to 6% increase. It shouldn't be that extreme in such a short period of time. And it was really just a perfect storm of events that happened. It didn't only affect those buying and selling homes, it affected everybody here. It affected those that were trying to build. It affected those that already own homes because the property taxes went crazy. I mean, the property taxes went up about the same as the average real estate prices. And one of the reasons is because in Texas, our property tax system, everybody knows about it. It is not the most ideal thing. I mean, it's one of the biggest negatives that I talk to people about is getting over those property taxes because they are double in what most people are expecting to pay. In some cases, in a lot of areas, there are people that they had to pay 30% more on their property taxes from just a span of 2 years. So that can really affect how people can afford their homes. The good thing is we do have the homestead exemption. So if you had that filed, it limits your year over year increase to 10%, and it gives you a little bit of a break, only like a few $100. But even still, it's better than nothing. For those that have second homes or vacation homes or investment properties, that 30-35% increase could drastically affect your affordability in that home. So it really created kind of an issue there with certain people that weren't planning on selling. On top of that, the supply chain issues and these rising real estate prices really affected new home construction. It affected things great for the builders. I mean, they were having to deal with all kinds of issues with turnover for contractors, as well as dealing with the supply chain issues of actually getting things on time and building houses on time. But let me tell you what, it was like Black Friday at these new home communities as they were releasing these lots to be sold. I mean, there was the majority of the new home communities in and around San Antonio were completely sold out. Like there was no way you could get anything under contract. You couldn't go buy a new home. I mean, where that was before, a really great option for especially first-time home buyers. You could find an affordable brand new house, you get the warranty, you get all the bells and whistles that you want in the new modern style homes, and you get it for a really affordable price. Because of the rising real estate prices and because of the supply and demand of it all with the new construction, people were going nuts for these new construction neighborhoods, and it really caused a shortage. I mean, there was hardly any new construction homes available, whereas before you could go out and find a spec home that had been built and could possibly be moved in a couple months or maybe even less than that. The problem is that people were buying homes and putting them under contract whenever they were first starting to build them. So they were going through the build process with these spec home builders. And that in turn affected what we see now with this shift that just happened with the rising interest rates. And we'll get into that in just a second. So as everybody knows, the mortgage interest rates drastically increased over the last few months. They went from a low of like 2.65% all the way up to 5.81%. They've actually started to come down a little bit as I'm recording this video, but that drastic increase can really cost about $100,000 in affordability. So kind of going back to those builder situations, that's where a lot of these issues came up. So as we're talking about the changes that we've seen in the last couple months, let me kind of show you some of the stats that we've seen in the San Antonio area and how it's changed from the beginning when COVID hit in April of 2020 to now. And we'll go with the May 2022 stats just so it still shows you basically the peak of when everything was still kind of going crazy before the interest rates really started skyrocketing and started to affect the overall market. So days on market, average days on market in the entire San Antonio market in April of 2020 was 61 days. And in May of 2022, that was 27 days. So that just shows you how quickly things were going off the market. It was twice as fast, more than twice as fast as it was back in the beginning in 2020. So the monthly sales, looking at the total number of sales that happened in April of 2020, that was 2,748. And here in May of 2022, we had 3,580. So again, you can see how many more homes were selling. And the biggest problem that's actually not going to be shown in these stats is that our inventory was so low. I mean, back in 2019, end of 2019, summer of 2019, that was kind of more the last really normal market that we saw. I would see on the MLS an average, looking at probably 12 to 15,000 homes total, looking at all residential homes, single residential homes in the entire market. And early this year, we were at like 4,000. I mean, that's a huge difference. So that's really where a lot of these multiple offer situations came into. And then that in turn affect the price and all these other things. So the median price in 2020, in April of 2020, was a minuscule $241,500. The epitome of affordability. Looking at San Antonio, everybody wanted to come here because it was so affordable. You could get a really nice home for $240,000. Same home, same median sales price, May of 2022 is now $348,500. That is a huge swing, $100,000 swing, nearly 40-ish% swing. I mean, it's a pretty drastic increase between just a matter of 2 years. And kind of the same thing, falling right in line with that, price per square foot went from $129 in April of 2020 to a whopping $188 a square foot in May of 2022. All right, so we kind of talked about where we're at in May. Now, where are we at as we sit right here this second? I'm looking at the last 30 days. What were our stats and how does that affect, or how does that change from May to now in just a few months' time? Average days on market went from 27 in May to now we're at 35. Pretty big increase for such a short period of time. Total sales was down below 3,000 at 2,974. The median sales price dropped to 330,000, and in turn the median price per square foot dropped to 175. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that the overall price of everything is really decreasing. That just means that there's cheaper properties sold, in my opinion. The way I look at it is this: so interest rates went up by roughly 3%, right? So that affected the affordability of anybody that was on the market currently, and especially people that are working the last couple of months. People that I'm working with right now, same thing they're dealing with. I mean, they started looking a few months ago, hadn't been able to find anything because there's really nothing out there. They're dealing with having to figure out a new affordable property range. So say they were buying up to 500,000 and now their interest rate is such a drastically amount higher. Maybe they can only afford 450, 400,000 now. It just depends on how much they were stretching their budget, and that is the biggest thing that we've seen when it comes to builders too. Right now, if you go look, builders are offering incentives like crazy, like they were back 3-4 years ago whenever things just weren't selling that quick. Things have gotten so nuts with the interest rates that the people that started building at the very beginning, 9 to 12 months ago, maybe they were getting ready to close. Well, now all of a sudden when they're getting ready to close, their interest rate is 3% higher, and they can no longer afford this house, so they have to cancel the contract. So we have this influx of homes that are hitting the market, these new construction homes, and that is in turn causing a lot of this, correction, I guess you could call. I wouldn't even call it like a crash. It's not even close to that, but this slight correction because we have a lot more inventory. Like I mentioned earlier this year, we were hovering around 4,000 homes on the market in San Antonio. And as of this morning, we're over 9,000. So it's doubled. And that has a lot to do with the new construction homes coming back on the market. And because of all these on the market, these new construction homes those prices are going to start coming down. They're going to start being a little more negotiable on those. Another big thing to look at with affordability, and especially with these builders, I mean, your lumber prices have dropped dramatically since the peak back in 2020 as well. So it was a peak up to $1,329 on the futures market, and now we're all the way down to $479.20. That's going to help a lot of people whenever it comes to building homes as well, especially custom homes. So like I mentioned, so all these homes are coming back on the market for these builders. And so that's creating a lot more inventory for people to go look at. And it's creating a lot more opportunities for them to get into a new home that's ready to go, because these builders are wanting to sell them. They're giving really good closing cost incentives, sometimes even more than that. They'd probably be offering appliance packages if they haven't been already. I can just give you one quick example of exactly how crazy that the builders have really been affected by all of this, right? So one specific builder, and I won't mention the name for privacy reasons, but I heard that they were averaging about 200 home sales in all of their markets in Texas every month for the period of the COVID market, as we're going to call it, right? And between middle of June and July, they sold 20 homes. And that has a lot to do with all the homes being canceled. That is a pretty astonishing statistic in my opinion. So what exactly does this mean going forward for you as a buyer, and if you're a seller as well looking to sell in the San Antonio market? The interest rate thing is definitely affecting a lot of people. But let me tell you what, this interest rate of 4 to 5% is an average interest rate. It's a pretty good interest rate actually if you look at historically, and I know you can't compare, that interest rate to what home prices are. Your monthly mortgage payment is going to be dramatically higher because of that higher interest rate with these home prices being so high. You can't compare it to back in the 80s when the interest rates were 10, 12%, but the home prices were $50,000, $60,000. I mean, it just doesn't compare. But at the same time, you look at it, you're still getting a pretty solid interest rate because 4 to 5% is kind of what we had back in 2017 to 2019. It kind of got up to that 4.5%, 5-ish% range, and that's where we're back down to now. As of recording this video, we're down below 5%. Hopefully it keeps there, but everybody's saying it may start going up a little bit, but even if it goes up 1-ish, 2-ish%, I don't see that being a huge detractor for people coming to buy. It just may affect some of those homes that are listed maybe way above what they realistically should be listed for. Those people, those sellers are going to have to be a little bit more reasonable, and they're not going to sell in that first weekend with multiple offers, all cash over asking price, because of the way the interest rates and everything else have gone. It's going to affect everybody, even the cash buyers. But not only do those interest rates affect things, the amount of people moving affects things drastically as well. This last couple of years, there have been a mass exodus from places, from cities, from states where people just got tired of dealing with, we'll just be frank with it, just got tired of dealing with the crap that they were having to deal with at those places. So they started moving to places they've always dreamed of moving to. And that is what's drawn so many people to Texas, and especially to San Antonio. I can tell you, me personally, that has been my sole focus really those last couple of years. I've loved working with every single one of my clients that have been moving here from out of state. It is my my passion to help those types of people. And again, I've mentioned it in videos before, but if you have any need to move here in San Antonio, if you're interested in that, let me know. I'd be more than happy to help you guys. Monday to Sunday, I'm here to answer your questions as best as I can. And then I will throw my information down in the description below so that you can reach out to me at any point in time, get back to you guys on that kind of stuff so I can help you with your move down here. Now, getting into why this is not a big negative for buyers and sellers. So everybody keeps telling me that they're going to wait for the crash to buy. They're going to rent for a year, wait for this crash to happen that's coming, and then they're going to buy their house whenever the market hits the bottom. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I haven't known too many people that have been known to time the market very well. And the people that do typically time the market pretty well are the ones that are buying constantly, and they just happen to be buying at the same time that the market hits the bottom, and so they get a good deal on things. Now, if you're gonna buy real estate, that's kind of the things I've always heard is you don't, wait to buy real estate, you buy real estate and wait. So it's one of those things where if you're gonna buy a home and you're gonna keep it for 2 to 5 years, then you should be fine. Realistically, you're not gonna lose money historically if you go with that strategy. Now, if you're planning on turning it every 6 to 12 months, that's a different story, and you may want to hesitate a little bit on that kind of thing because short term, there may be a little bit of a drop. Nobody knows, there's no way of knowing, but historically, San Antonio has always been pretty solid. Back in 2008, our prices didn't really drop like the rest of the country saw, or like some of the, West Coast and East Coast areas saw. It plateaued, the average prices plateaued. The number of sales dropped drastically, but with that plateaued for a couple of years and then immediately started going back up at a slow and steady rate, which is what I am fully expecting to happen again. I don't have no crystal ball, so I'm just kind of speculating here, but at the same time, I do not see any prices going down. So if you wait to buy and you're planning on buying this house and keeping it for 2, 5, 10 years, if it's a long-term house, why wouldn't you just go ahead and bite the bullet and buy it? Buy it now before it has a chance to go up again. And then if it does drop a little bit, then you just wait, you wait it out, and you'll be fine. The important thing is getting into a house and a home for your family that you guys love. That's the most important thing in my mind whenever you're looking to buy a house here. Now with that, so we are gonna see some changes, and we have already. Like I mentioned, the price per square foot has gone down a little bit, but I think it's more of a short-term reaction to things. I feel like that the overall, what we're going to see with this market is that the days on market is going to continue to increase and get back to that normal stable market. I mean, we're looking at still anywhere between 0 to 3 months is still a seller's market. So even going up to 90 days on market, which back in beginning of 2020, we were at 60. It's going to take a while to get up to 90 to get into a true buyer's market. We're at 31 right now, I think right at a month basically. Looking at that, it's going to make those sellers, they're going to have to be a little bit more patient. It's going to make it even more important to find a realtor that is truly working in your best interest to price the home right and tell you what it realistically is going to sell for in this market. And then you just got to have the patience and make sure that your realtor is doing all the marketing and everything that they need to. The good homes, the outstanding homes, perfect homes, the pristine condition homes, the ones that are set up really, really well and priced right, are still going to be selling, and they're still going to get multiple offers. I mean, that's happened throughout time. I mean, there hasn't been a market where there has not been multiple offers on things. I mean, it's just a matter of the right house, and if it's priced correctly and it's in really good shape, it's in a really desirable market, it's still going to get multiple offers. So you as a seller shouldn't think that it's impossible to get multiple offers and you're going to have to list, 20,000 above what you absolutely need to get the house so that you can compensate for a price drop. That's a terrible strategy in my opinion. Price it where it needs to be first, and then you'll sell it quicker. And ultimately, to a buyer that really wants your house, and they're going to be committed to making that deal happen, and they're not going to cancel halfway down the road because they had to settle for your house after you dropped the price a few times. So like I mentioned, sellers are still going to capitalize on that equity. I don't see prices dropping. So this equity that we've gained over the last couple of years is still going to be there. It just may take a little bit longer for you to sell that house at that price that we're currently at. So it's a matter of just deciding on what is best for you and your family. And then it's also good for the buyers. In my opinion, if you're selling a house, more than likely going to be going to buy a house. So why wouldn't you want the market to be a little bit better on the buy side so that you can actually feel more comfortable selling your house? That was also one of the biggest issues with this market that we've had in the last couple of years, is that people weren't wanting to sell because they couldn't find a house to buy. And I had several clients that were looking to sell their house, and they decided they couldn't do it because they weren't going to be able to find a place to go, and they didn't want to have to move from their house into a temporary rental situation and then worry about not being able to find the right house that they wanted because there was no inventory. So it really affected, it was kind of a trickle effect on the inventory because people weren't wanting to sell because they couldn't find anything to buy. And so now that we're getting back to more of a stable, market, the sellers will be comfortable selling because there's going to be more options to buy. They'll be able to go buy that new, that brand new home that's bigger for the family that they've just outgrown their last home. So they'll be able to sell their smaller home that's greater for the first time buyer and the small family, the young family. And in turn, it starts to trickle down and it keeps going up the ladder like that. So my opinion, I think this is going to continue to go in the right direction for people, for both buyers and sellers, for all those reasons. All right, so if y'all are thinking about moving to San Antonio, definitely reach out to me. I can help you guys find a house here. I absolutely love doing it. Information's in the description below. But also take a look at this video right here. It talks all about where to live in San Antonio, the different areas and what makes them great and what makes them stand out, and can help you kind of focus in on an area that you want to focus in on for whenever we start looking at houses.